This is a lot like church, nobody wants to sit in the front row.
This is my room.
Oh, we're good.
James.
Appreciate
James.
you going around them trees.
I'd like to officially call this meeting of the Seneca County Board of Commissioners to order for Tuesday, June 9th. Please join us for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me for a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day. Please guide us with your knowledge as we are here to serve our role as public servants so that we will lead so thy will be done. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Here.
Commissioner Zoller?
Here.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Here. Get the medal.
Okay. We will have the signing of the journal, and I'll accept a motion to approve the DVD recording from our previous board session of Tuesday, June 2nd, and the written index.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Stand approved. We've got a packed house and a packed agenda, a variety of topics today. Let's take care of the adjustments to the agenda. As when the phone rings, we will take the call from Sandusky County on the joint ditch hearing that we are having to do with them. So adjustments to the agenda.
I need to bring up the a letter from the Health Department, a request from Board of Elections under new business, and the underwriting agreement under old business.
Underwriting agreement.
Under old business.
Okay.
Okay.
That's for financing of the Joint Justice Center, correct?
That's, yeah, to
Okay.
the underwriter, yeah.
Okay, well, I would move that the board sign the contract with...
Well, no, I just want to see if you have any adjustments to the
sorry.
agenda.
Oh,
Did
no,
you have any
I don't,
adjustments to the
no,
agenda?
I don't, I thought you wanted...
No.
No adjustments. We've
Okay.
already covered.
Do we want to highlight strategic planning, have an update on that, where people are at?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put that under old business. Do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. That takes care of our adjustments, and like I said, we're gonna wait, this call's gonna happen from Sandusky County, so we can start, is the health department new or old business?
New.
Okay, let's talk about strategic planning.
Good.
Let's hit
Well,
that one, because the
just,
call's gonna happen, no more we get into anything else.
Just to bring everyone up to date, we did have committees that kind of evolved from the strategic planning process. Fred is in charge of transportation. Holly has got technology, communications, and I'm taking care of building and maintenance. We did have a short building and maintenance meeting this morning, and just to let everyone know basically that we are moving forward with these committees. I think that you formed your committee.
Yes, I haven't actually asked everybody yet. We brainstormed on the list, and we've got to reach out and do the ask.
And Fred, you had a meeting?
Yes, we have. We had our first meeting, Nikki, what was it, last week or the week before? A little bit redundant here is at the same time, Roxanne Burris from Regional Planning was forming a transportation group. And so I didn't want to be redundant here, and so that we have this committee that's looking at transportation, then her committee that's looking at transportation. We're going to kind of incorporate this all into one larger committee. We've got a seminar that is going to be held sometime, I think, at end of July. I'm very pleased. Yesterday I had a conversation with Representative Reinecke, and as we all know that he's on the transportation committee down at the state. He's had conversations with Senator Burke, and once they get the budget done, which will be wrapped up sometime here in June, is that they are going to start lobbying for some improvements. We can get the bypass road, loop road, whatever you want to call it. So there's some real strong people in Columbus that are advocating, and they're trying to bring some money back to Seneca County to go ahead and accomplish this role. So I'm pleased to see his participation in on it, and especially when he's on the Transportation Committee, which is exactly where this comes from. It was one of the reasons that Representative Reineke wanted to be on that, is realizing that transportation is a major issue in Seneca County and to try to get some funds back in this area. So that's kind of where we stand, and that will unfold here late summer and as we go forward with that, with the whole transportation, looking at the whole transportation needs within the county.
Like I said, our committee, we haven't set a meeting date yet. We talked about who to be on the committee and looking back at the objectives to make sure we get the right people for what we were charged with taking a look at, so.
And we are meeting as a strategic planning committee again in June
23rd.
23rd.
Yeah. Okay, the other thing added under old business was the underwriting agreement.
Well, as commissioners know, my fellow commissioners, we've had two presentations from two financing underwriting groups. And after conversation, I would like to move that we sign an agreement subject to the approval of our prosecutor with Ross Sinclair and Associates, specifically Joseph Robertson, who is the managing director, to take care of the bonding for our Joint Justice Center project.
I can second that motion, and I'll start some discussion. Is we do have the contracts from both that we were looking at, right? So we're prepared. Like I said, it'll still be subject to his review.
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to verify it. I thought that was one of the two we had seen, make sure.
Yeah, I mean, Commissioner Kirchner and Commissioner Stacy, just to update you with the Ross, is it Roth or Ross Sinclair?
Ross.
R-O-T-H or
ROSS.
Ross Sinclair. Back to the whole process when we had a committee looking at the Joint Justice Center. Of course, always at the top of the list is cost and how it's going to break down to the city, the county, and all this. And Joseph Robertson and Ross Sinclair has been very, very helpful. I've had numerous, every time that we come up with a different cost figure, before any of us could agree with it, we got to see how much it's going to cost us, you know, as we bond this thing over the duration of the loan and so forth. And they've been very, very, very helpful with this process. So I strongly recommend that we go with them. They've been very helpful.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any part of the resolution we need to read?
No, just basically, we didn't have one prepared, so just accepting the underwriting agreement pending prosecutor's approval.
Okay, so let's stated. So call roll, please.
Commissioner Kirchner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, stands approved. Again, Sandusky County is calling us, right? Okay, so before they do, the board date for July 14th, raising the question of changing that time because of a joint ditch hearing.
Yes.
We need to be physically present for in Sandusky County on the 14th at 10:30.
Yes.
Okay, so that's our regular meeting date, which is also a work session date. So do we desire to push all of our stuff back to after lunchtime? Do a 1 o'clock work session, 1:30 work session, to whatever? We need to move that because of that hearing.
I would make a recommendation, just with the ditch hearing over there, because of the travel distance, and we have lunch and so forth, that we would make the work session at 1:30 and then 1:30 to 2, and then our regular board session from 2 to whatever.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
We don't need to have any discussion about the Sandusky County hearing prior to it. My only thought
Prior to
was-
going to it?
Right,
This,
okay. So there's no need to have them, one thought I had is maybe meeting on Monday.
Oh, no. We don't need to do anything, we need to do it with them there.
yeah, because we don't have any information. They're the ones that are, it's basically their project, so.
Tuesday, 1:30 is fine with me.
Okay. All right. Do we want to start with the hearing, or do we want to go ahead with other discussions? Like I said, I don't want to delay, but if we get to that hearing, then we are not going to answer that call.
Right.
What are we doing? Let's just dog work instant
Okay.
installation project.
I can do that.
All right, tell us about the dog warden.
One of her, in her 5-year plan, she had for this year, obviously, was her vehicles, which you guys have already approved. She's also looked at some improvements in her building, and this had been in one of her 5-year plan. I think this is year 3. So she went and got some quotes to do some insulation. It's blown-in insulation for her kennel area, and they will reseal it. It says air sealing, so I'm not sure what that really is. The best cost was $12,400, being that's a little bit more than what I approved. Wanted to bring it to you, and I think she had presented this to the previous board. So I wanted to bring that back to you, see if that.
What's the cost?
$12,400.
12,000?
What had been, how much had been approved previously?
But she didn't have a quote when she did it in her 5-year plan.
Okay.
So she have it in her budget.
She'll have it in her budget,
It's in her budget line
yeah,
for the year.
yeah.
I would like to, before approving it, to go out and visit with her and to understand clearly what she's trying to achieve and so forth. And my suggestion is that, and I'll be glad to take that responsibility on and go out and do it and then report back to the board, and then we can take a vote on it for next week.
I said we're sending you to the dogs.
Well, I understand Commissioner Kirschner is responsible for the wild animals now, and he's,
That's right. He is.
The Lions and
He is
Tigers.
on that committee. So you will follow up with the dog warden and.
yes, and I will report back to the board next Tuesday.
Okay. Liquor license is listed here under new business, and that is regarding one of the townships and something that hasn't passed through us.
It's for a Belmar Boat Landing LLC. It's in Tiffin, Ohio, but it's within Hopewell Township.
Also known as the Yacht Club.
Yeah, what do they want to do?
It looks like they are maybe transferring the name.
Because they already have a liquor license.
I don't know, it must be, all they give me is 2 pieces of paper, and it's going from a Kathleen Beamer Stone establishment, Matthew Stone, Brett Beamer administrator, I'm guessing, to just putting the name as Belmar Boat Landing LLC.
Okay, so I suppose they have to probably reapply every time they do
Why
anything,
do
transfers name change.
we don't do anything with liquor like we do.
Yep.
Yeah, they come through. You reached out to, and had not heard back from the Hopewell Township trustees, correct?
Yeah, they never called back.
Okay.
And since it's a current business,
So do we just need, we don't need to act on anything, we just know that we've heard it and have no opposition?
You guys approve it?
Well, all you guys gotta say is that you guys don't want a hearing for it. You guys are.
If they already have, they already have the liquor
Yeah,
license, and it's
yeah.
just transfer of names.
And you.
Ownership, the owner died.
Oh? Well, there's
So it's
the
just a
reason.
transfer of ownership from the administrator of the estate to an LLC.
Okay. All right.
I don't have a
We
problem with
with it. You have no problem with it? Okay. Thank you for the point of clarification, Judge Schacht. Okay, we still haven't heard from Sandusky County.
Tanya's calling.
Okay, since otherwise we're going to start the hearing.
I can bring up the health department quick.
Well, and saved by the bell, there we go. Good morning, Sandusky County.
Hi, this is Teresa with Sandusky County.
Hi, Teresa, you have got the commissioners in session in Seneca County.
I have Gary Thatcher, James Holzer, and Tony Schwalko in session, and Teresa Berkeley County Administrator.
Okay.
Good morning.
Resolution.
Hello. You have in session here all 3 commissioners, clerk, county administrator, and lots of concerned citizens and elected officials.
We have one reporter from the radio station and no citizens.
Have any that aren't concerned?
We can top you, we got 2 paper reports here, so we one-upped you.
Okay, we have one resolution, resolution 2015-169, order setting date and time of final hearing on the engineer's report on estimated assessment on the proceedings of the improvement claims for compensation on the alley joint county gets 091. Gary Thatcher moved.
Holly,
I'll second it.
Fred Zoller.
James
Commissioner Fred Zoller seconded it.
We have a roll call from Seneca County, please.
Commissioner Kirschner,
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller,
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy.
Yes.
I have, Kirschner, please.
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Zoller,
Yes.
Ector,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Bogo.
Yes. Done, right?
Need to date this?
If you can have, if you will sign the signature page on the resolution and scan that back over to me, then I'll have, Bill and Commissioner sign off, and I will send you a full, signed, signature page.
Not a problem.
All right, will do.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
You too, have a great day. All right. It is the time for the hearing on the alley vacation request from West owners in Pleasant Township. Mr. Engineer, would you like to, do you need to make any opening statements on this?
I don't. I mean, as far as procedure goes, I can if you'd like, just so people understand, but there's nothing formally I need to do.
Okay.
So,
You want Mark to give it? Okay. We had the viewing where we went to Pleasant Township last week to see the said property, the alley that is brought up, and the vacation request is regarding. And at this point in time, there is a sign-in sheet going around, so everyone to please sign in that you are here and participating in this hearing, whether you actively participate or not. And we'll leave it from there and allow for remarks of anybody who has any remarks to make. Yes. Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. Yeah, my name is John Kaler. I represent Glenna and Scott West. Glenna in particular, but Scott also would very much like to see this alley vacated. Glenna has lived in her home for at least 50 years. During the entire time that she's lived there, this alley has never been used for anything other than grassy yard. In fact, up until about 5 years ago, she tells me that there was a very large elm tree growing in the alley. She says about that big around. That elm tree had to have been there for at least 40 years. So I think that's further indication that this alley has never been used for any sort of traffic. Those of you who came to see it the other day saw that there's no difference between the alley and the 2 yards. It's grassed over. Glenna's plan, if the alley is vacated, would be to put up some sort of a border between her property and the neighboring property, which belongs to the church. Perhaps a row of bushes, a fence, something like that. That's all I have. Thank you. Say something. I think you should.
Anyone else who would wish to speak at this hearing? Yes.
Bill Miller, Pleasant Township. We like to maintain ownership of it, just to maintain, not knowing what utilities we might need in the future, or another road or alley. I mean, it is a plotted road that sooner or later we might need. I know it's not been used, but with utilities, not knowing where we might be going with that in the next 10, 15 years, make it a lot easier for right-of-ways for utilities, so we wouldn't have to tear up somebody's yard. But I know it ain't been used, but rather than us driving it to just use it, let them use it as a yard. It's always been that way, so.
Further comments? Yes. Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
I would like the alley closed for one simple reason, because of the little kids and the people that rents the parsonage. It's got little kids now. They just turn the kids up. If some idiotic person would come down through there, they would hit the kids. And whose fault would it be? The township surely wouldn't stand up to the point that it's their fault. I would like it closed. And I lived in fear for all these years when I raised my 2 boys. The township does not need that alley whatsoever. 15 years from now, 30 years ago, they needed that alley. Nothing's been done. Nothing's been done now. 15 years from now, they don't need the alley. Yes, I understand that there is supposed to be a sewer, which was supposed to be done 30 years ago. It's not there yet. They need to access from 53 to the back alley. That's what they want the alley for. Why can't they go around the church to the alley in the back instead of through the yard? And they have not maintained that alley whatsoever. And the guy in the parsonage keeps coming over closer and closer and closer, because that he was told that that alley is vacated.
Any further comments? Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I would note also that if and when the township ever did want to use that land for utilities, rather than keep it as an alley indefinitely with no solid plans to actually use it, the township could always use it by prescriptive easement or something like that. There are less restrictive methods that could be used for utilities.
Okay. Mr.
I
King?
don't think that's right, is it, Mark? We own that alley, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I think we'd have to sell the alley and then buy the alley back if we needed it someday?
Most certainly, if you didn't own it anymore and you wanted to put a sewer system through there,
Yeah.
there would be compensation.
Yeah, there'd have to be
Right.
some kind of compensation at that point. I don't believe that we would want to be in that position.
Is there such a thing, Mark, as vacating the alley and then giving the township an easement?
It is, certainly that is a possibility. I mean, personally, I don't know why you would give up ownership of something when you fully own it and have complete control over it.
Right.
If you have a desire to use it in the future.
I understand that, but I mean,
Yeah.
the point that was made that you'd have to give somebody some compensation if you vacated it and then had to buy it back, is there a way to vacate it and retain an easement so that if you needed to use it for utilities in the future, it would automatically be there for you?
If a simultaneous conveyance was done by which the property was transferred and at the same time a utility easement was granted, then that would serve that purpose. There would still be compensation for damage. So, I mean, even if you have an easement over somebody, doesn't mean you can damage the property to use it, so.
So there would be some cost then if the township needed to.
That is correct. More than likely. I mean, the sewer, we aren't even under orders yet, but it will be. And just to explain a little bit, this is different than a traditional vacation that we have looked at in the past. In most rural areas, ownership extends to the center of the road, and the county, township has an easement, a right-of-way over top of that property, but the ownership actually goes to the center of the road, or center of the right-of-way. In areas that were platted, for instance, Fort Seneca or any other platted subdivision, the ground was actually set out. The alleys were set out and ownership was transferred to the township. So this isn't a place where you are just eliminating an easement that exists over top of it for vacation, where the center lines already go to the center of the road or to the center of the alley. This property is actually owned by the township. Technically, according to prosecutor opinion, owned by the county under the jurisdiction of the township. So it is actually owned ground. So as far as that goes, we would need to look if it were to be vacated. The ownership of that property, according to legal principle, and not necessarily the way this would happen, you guys would ultimately make that decision, is that ownership of that property should revert back to the prior owner. Whoever developed the subdivision is the person that would retain the ownership of it. They were the prior owner. So it's not like you would just split it necessarily right in the middle like we do in traditional alleys. That would need to be researched.
If the primary concern is the well-being of kids playing, is there a way that you can barricade both ends of that alley?
It's not necessary. A road is not a roadway. A roadway is not a road. Simply having a right-of-way or having ownership of a piece of ground does not provide access for somebody to use it. It is not improved. It is not improved. If it had a stone base and it was never used, but people could use it, you know, physically could use it, it would be a different story than it being a yard right now where it is not, there's no semblance of a road. So for somebody to use it, they would be using a roadway without having a road over top of it. In my opinion, and I'm no lawyer, there would be no liability for the township or the landowner for that.
Now quit bragging, you're not a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. It's certainly not.
Okay,
No, it's not here. It's certainly not a judge.
The fact is that the plaintiffs are saying that the people asking for this, saying the concern is about the kids. And that the county hasn't used it for the last, or the township hasn't used it for the last 30 years. Has there ever been a vehicle, to your knowledge, that is, went through that alley? Has there ever been a situation in which?
No, but there has been remarks to me that being that is an open alley, they are going to drive down it.
Who is they?
Any neighbor.
Pardon me?
Any neighbor.
The neighbors.
For what purpose?
Yeah.
Just to irritate him.
But they have not as of yet.
No.
No, they have not.
And for the last 30 years, well, more than that, with this elm tree growing there,
They have not. But being he knows that the alley is open, he's threatened to drive down through there.
let me ask you this, can you plant a tree there? Again,
Well, yeah.
I mean, then, who's got the right to plant a tree?
The township. They own the ground. There is no alley.
Yeah.
There is a piece of ground that is owned by the township. Just like their firehouse, or, you know, it doesn't mean somebody can drive into their firehouse because the whole township owns it. Okay, there is no roadway there for somebody to use.
Well, I mean, the proof of that is I went over to see it, and they said it was an alley vacation. As you guys know, Fort Seneca isn't that big. But I drove around through a number of streets and alleys trying to figure out exactly where it was. I was there a little early, and then found the group of cars where I found them. And if you view it, it looks like somebody's yard. It's not.
But, I'm sorry. It being public property, there's nothing that would stop someone from using it to drive through if they wanted to. There's nothing stopping the people from sitting down and having a picnic right there if they want to. It's public property. People could drive through it, and there's no reason why they couldn't.
Is the township have an interest in a tree or a bush there? That would alleviate, its ownership could still stay with the county, alleviate any potential of someone driving on it. Put a bush or a tree there.
Well, right now, there's two burn barrels on it, so they couldn't drive through it if they tried.
I'll just make one quick comment. We have to use a little common sense here. There are laws in the state of Ohio, and they are about operating vehicles and operating them correctly. And I think that if we use the current laws that are on the books to make sure people don't do the wrong thing, that we don't need to make concessions to make neighbors happy. Neighbors have conflicts, that's their problem, they have to work them out. But they can't come in and bully their way through the system and not obey the law. The laws that are on the books for driving in any area are there for a reason. And that's so that the sheriff or the state highway patrol can monitor it and stop any activity that's illegal. So I would suggest to anyone who thinks that there's a problem with someone driving somewhere they shouldn't be, contact the sheriff or the state highway patrol and notify them that they think there's a crime being committed.
And to that effect, I mean, even on public roads where we have an asphalt road and ditches extending to the end of the right-of-way, If somebody leaves the roadway and creates damage in the ditch, we prosecute them for that. So the road is the asphalt paved way. That is where you are allowed to drive. Without a paved way, an improved way, it could be stone. Without an improved way, there is no roadway for somebody to drive on. So nobody has a right to drive through their yard that they're using as a yard through this piece of property because there is no road there. There's no roadway, there's no road. Just like if somebody just gets off the road and tears up our ditch, which is part of a roadway, we prosecute them for that and get it fixed. So you can't drive through even my ditches.
Further comments?
Well, you can do it all the time. Yeah. See.
I think the sign and list is still going around. Is there any further comments to be made for this hearing? Yes, Ms.
Yeah,
Preston.
when you call the sheriff,
These ones are theirs. But the ones he
the one party is related to the sheriff. They come out and slap them on the hand. When the sheriff gets back to Tiffin, they're right back doing the same thing they done before.
What is it that they're doing that you would
Well,
call the
I
sheriff?
have called, and I admit, they got four-wheelers, they got golf carts, they got an ATV, or they just rip and tear up and down the roadways.
Do they come through what is now the alley?
No. But they're ripping and tearing up and down the road. No license, no nothing on it. You call the sheriff comes out, slaps them on the hands and leaves.
Any further comments for this hearing? Do the trustees desire to make any closing remark, comment?
To me, it's just the same as if they drive around our yard at our building or something. If they're, like Dave said, that's not legal for them to drive around in our yard. It's just another piece of yard for the township, so I don't think they should be able to drive through there. And we would prosecute if they drove around our building, so I think you can do the same thing there.
Last remarks from representatives here.
Even if people can't drive through the alley, and I'm not convinced that they couldn't, there's nothing stopping the public from using that as a walkway, especially with a church very close by.
No further remarks. I guess we can see what the desire of this board is, because this is procedures that it has to come through us. On any such motion made, I will recuse myself due to the relationship with the trustees.
Well, I think that I need to make a motion that we go along with the recommendations of the township trustees. I don't know how else government works other than to allow the trustees to do what they think is in the best interest of the township. So, since there has been no dangerous activity in that area, and for the past however many years by the admission of the plaintiff, I move that we go along with recommendations of the township trustees.
And I have to agree with that. I have to say, when I started this whole process, I was borderline, but it hasn't been used in 30 years. I would hopeful that maybe to solve some issues and get to plant a tree for the township. You guys put a tree in there, that would stop it, but again, for 30 years, it hasn't been used. I certainly appreciate, I like the idea of an easement, but if you're saying that if you gave an easement, we still would have to compensate if something's put in. Well, why do we want to give something away and then all of a sudden down the road we as the township has to pay for it? I would have to agree with Mr. Kirschner that I would not allow for the vacating of the alley under that. And I'm sorry, I understand where you're coming from, but I just don't think that it's in the best interest of the majority of the citizens.
Can I say something else?
So yours is
I
this
have
good?
had the alley vacated We have told the renters to stay over on the other side. He still comes over on my side because the alley is vacated. It is not closed.
Your statement is in form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay, are you seconding?
And
the
I'm
motion?
seconding that
So we have a
motion.
motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion from the board of commissioners? Okay. Can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
And we're, I guess abstained. Refused, whichever. Okay, so the motion to deny the vacation is approved. From here, Mark, where does this go?
That's it.
That's it, okay. We'll get the.
It'll be journalized just in your records, but there's no formal action. You have to pass this.
We'll get copies of these documents to anybody who needs those.
Did everybody sign?
It didn't come through up here if it needs to.
Yeah.
For me?
I thought on it, not today.
Good.
Thank
See
you,
ya.
Mark. See you later.
All right. Back to the regular agenda. So put it at this point in time, and this will take us back up to old business. The next thing we had scheduled was session. We can do that. Let's begin with old business. What we have down here is the Justice Center. In the, I'm going to start this if no one minds. In the near future, Seneca County, Tiffin, Ohio, will be home to the first Joint Justice Center in the state of Ohio, and this is going to house all of our courts: municipal court, common pleas, juvenile, and probate. This is going to be a multi-governmental facility. It will provide for a focal point for justice in Seneca County, a cross-program resource sharing opportunity for efficiency and effectiveness amongst our courts and those services. And it will be a secure and accessible place for those who work in the facility and for the general public. A week ago at our meeting here, I stated that I would work on putting together a plan to define project administration, project management, detailing responsibilities, and as much information, a timeline, anything I could to show that we should and could continue to move forward on this project with or without the desires at that point of a proposed project manager. And so I've done that. I've looked at lots of things in that research, best practices. I've looked at project management, life cycles, execution of plans, closure, all the things that I could to educate myself to make the best informed decision that I could make on this subject. And then I had the opportunity to hear from some experts at the City Council meeting of the whole last Thursday, talking about what seemed to be the preferred construction method of delivery, a construction manager at risk, which they highlighted the other construction delivery methods as well. And I thought that was very informative. And I thought the conclusion of that this is the type of venture that we definitely should have an owner's representative for. Someone who's qualified, someone who's proven, and with exceptional people skills. Those were the things emphasized by the professionals at that meeting that night. So as promised a week ago, and I think even at a city council meeting at some point in the last couple of weeks, I made the suggestion. I pulled together several things, and with doing this, a rough outline of a plan that explains how we move forward and how we can do that, and backing that up is a charter, because I think we all need to be on the same page moving forward, and this defines in explicitly in simple form, the whole details of the project and what we as owners, the city, the county, and the justices are working on. I drafted a request for qualifications, taking something that was done in this office in February after we decided where the Justice Center was going, and adapted it for looking for an owner's representative, because I think in that type of money we're looking at procuring, not required by law, but I think that makes wise sense for us to do with the taxpayers' money. And then also a schedule, because it seemed to be a very large concern that with the large group of people, we're not going to be able to keep this project on schedule. Now, this is just taken from things I've seen, things I've learned from experience. I used to work in the construction field. It wasn't on buildings, but, so I have some understanding of some of those things. And so with this schedule, I think I prove and show that it's very feasible and possible. If anybody else wants one, they can have one. That we can have this project and we can keep it on schedule under a different type of modified structure. I also looked at an organizational chart and how we could do that with all of the three groups, key players that have made up, or representatives made up that leadership team, and we'll go from there. So what I've proved to myself through my research and asking questions and seeking out information, and hopefully maybe to many of you, is that as county and city officials, we do have the ability to make this first ever project happen while maintaining fiscal responsibility, transparency, and accountability to the true owners, and that's the taxpayers. And that's my opening remarks. So at this point in time, we received a letter on Wednesday that the COG withdrew, a formal letter. I mean, if everybody followed the paper, you would have seen that. But from consideration, we had an editorial in the paper that highlighted the fact that, you know, it'd be nice to have that local representation being part of this and encourage them to consider, after the letter was out, to consider applying to fulfill that position.
I've done some research, and basically what we have cost the taxpayers in Seneca County is roughly, we're talking about construction costs increase an average of 4.4% a year. And we've been 2 years in this project, so it's roughly 8.8% of the total project. We've cost the taxpayers a little because of, and I understand there's part of this due diligence you have to go through, close to $900,000 over the last couple of years, because we haven't been able to get this thing past where we are today. Now, I realize there's a portion of that that is necessary to go through some of the gyrations. I have said many times that through this whole process, and I'm not gonna say at the very beginning, but because I know Judge Shelf has been 15 plus years on it, but when we really got serious about the Joint Justice Center, and we had good people with great intentions to sit down and to try to come up with a plan, we just couldn't get past ground zero. And when we hired the COG, or not hired, when they come in to be the facilitator of the project, things start moving forward. Things start moving forward. They come up with a timeline, they brought in the expertise. Do they have the knowledge to be project managers? No, absolutely they don't. They don't have the knowledge to bring in the study, to do the study for the Joint Justice Center, to look at the various options. But what they did do is they interviewed various firms to come up with the best firm that they felt. We were part of that process, and so that we can move forward on it. I believe I feel that I am fiscally responsible. I believe that the roughly $900,000 that we've spent the last 2 years, and what I mean by not making a decision, we've cost the taxpayers roughly $900,000. That we need somebody to keep this project, and where we are today with the city and the county and the judges and so forth has even been more proof to me that we need a facilitator, owner's rep type of thing. And I am strongly advocating. I know there's been some discussions on the contracts and the fees with the COG, and I think there's been some discussions on lowering the fees. I am firmly committed that we need someone, if not the COG, someone like the COG, and I am advocating the Council of Governments because of their experience in the project. I think it'll have to be done. We will have to be involved with it very intimately, but I think we're going to need somebody to be the facilitator of the project, and because of their experience, I think they're the best equipped for it. Sorry, I know that that may not be the most way everyone's going to be on board. There's going to be some people who are going to be against it, what resonates in my mind is the taxpayers and to be fiscally responsible. And I believe what we will pay the COG in fees, we will get back multifold in savings on getting the right project managers for the job, of getting additional grants that we can help pay for the project. And I think that's the right people to have.
Well, I have had some conversations with the COG regarding their costs, et cetera. There has been some information, misinformation, et cetera, that's been floating around. And, the initial request from the Council of Governments was $300,000. So what we've been trying to do is narrow down exactly how much money would be net to them, and that dollar amount is somewhere about $125. And they've probably performed, at least in my mind, I don't have an estimate, but at least $25,000 worth of work to date. The COG recognizes there needs to be an owner's representative, and that money would come out of the $300,000. They also recognize there would be attorney fees involved, and that money would come out of the $300,000. All fees that we would have to pay as we went along. In support of Commissioner Stacy, I will say that she has spent a great deal of time putting together this plan. And if I believed in my heart that we could do it on our own and keep to these timelines, I would absolutely agree with what she had to say. My concern is that because we are dealing with more than one political subdivision, there needs to be an intermediary, a project coordinator involved with this. I think that we need to be very certain that the contract we have is airtight, and that what services we ask for we get, and that there is no ambiguity within the contract, and therefore I think Prosecutor Devine would have to be very diligent in his efforts in reviewing that contract. But let us not forget that, and I know this has been a matter of controversy, let us not forget that we have secured a $500,000 interest-free loan from the government if it is a project like this. That money would be spent for all these costs that we're talking about. In fact, it can't be spent for anything other than those. No bricks or mortar can be part of that. That we have talked about a $500,000 LGIF loan for fiber wireless project that would be rolled into the courthouse project, which would mean some additional money coming to the county and to the city. And there also, I know, is an application for rural utility service, which could be up to another $500,000 grant that would be part of this total project. So I would advocate for us having a third party involved. I would advocate for us continuing to use the Council of Governments as the project coordinator, for lack of a better phrase. I would also caution us to make certain that the contract with them is very specific, and again, no ambiguity in that contract. But to say that they were going to get $300,000 is a misunderstanding. The fact is that what will net go to the COG will be somewhere in the range of $125,000, because the rest of it will be fees that they pay to other folks. We have a flow chart that has been developed and that we've been working on for months. It is not unsimilar to the flow chart that Commissioner Stacy has put together. By virtue of this flow chart, we should actually have an architect on board by June the 23rd. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but every time we reset the project, it costs us money. I'm not sure about the numbers that Commissioner Zoller talked about, but I can assure you that from a financing standpoint, rates are indeed higher than they were when we first looked at this, and the potential is that they'll be higher by the time we get through it. So my concern is that we trip over dollars to pick up dimes. If rates would increase by 0.5%, as I've stated on more than one occasion, that's a very real possibility before we get this financing. As a joint group, the city and the county, we would be talking significant dollars. $30,000 a year or so on average over a 30-year period, just based on interest rates. So you can put a pencil to that and know what we're talking about here. So spending $100 to expedite this process, as opposed to paying an interest rate that's 0.5% more than we're paying now, because we didn't expedite the process, doesn't make good fiscal sense to me.
Well, my feeling is we just want to be in the right order and moving forward. And the most important thing is that we know that the owners of this project are in agreement as we move forward and are comfortable with whoever's going to be any project or owner's representative or otherwise. And I will differ, and yes, my chart differs a little bit. I didn't mention this earlier, I left them on the copier, but I put together as well a flow chart of how I thought this worked with the owner's rep under the county, the city, and the judges running this, and it's far from complete. These are draft only, but I really think that prudency of that money with the staffs that we have, when I can only speak from my experience with the county, I can't speak for the city, that we can get RFQs, RFPs, and those kinds of things in place. And yes, I think the owner's rep is imperative. Something you mentioned that I really have question marks on this document that was handed to me was this $500,000 LGIF loan for fiber wireless project being rolled into the courthouse project. I'm not sure where that came from. I think that was something that existed before my term here, but what is that exactly about, and who determined that that rolls into the courthouse project?
Well, this is a proposal. And what they're saying is a grant has been secured, and they'd like to roll that activity into the project as the fiber wireless project for the entire county, including the city of Tiffin.
The one meeting I went to for that, I thought our experts said that we needed to be hardwired for the facility.
Yeah, our IT.
Our IT stuff, so I guess I wondered about that. And if this was before we were here, is it still out there? This grant is still sitting out there? Because like I said, this isn't something we handled since, I've been here since January 2nd of 13. So I guess I don't know. Was there meetings on that? Did you go to meetings on this? Do you?
Well, I know that they applied for fiber optics, but that was throughout Tiffin. I think, Gwen, can you?
Right, it's not a grant, it's a loan. It's based on the same thing as the $500,000 for the Joint Justice Center. So anything that would be done, we would be responsible for paying back. From what was presented to us on the project originally from NCO ESC, they would be the owners of all the equipment. The city, county would not own any of the equipment that they were going to use. It basically would take us and it would direct all of our information to NCO ESC and their servers. They would own the servers. I don't know, we did not go on board, really. They were still looking at the feasibility of putting up satellite kind of dishes like on our roofs, and we never really heard back from them. I feel we would be dependent on NCO ESC for our IT services at that point. I just see a lot of issues. We'd be pretty much locked in with them for those services in the future.
Thank you.
I think, again, it's also worth mentioning that if we hire the card, that the cost, and we understand the reluctancy from the city of Tiffin to come in on the project. And we have a commitment, and Judge Shelf, please verify this, that we have a commitment that the cost to get this thing to do the design and to actually out the bid would be borne by 75% of the county, and 25%, which would have been the city's contribution towards that, would be borne by the judges. If that's a combination of municipal, common police, or if it's all municipal, that remains to be worked out. But they are firmly committed, from what I understand, and Judge Shelf, you may want to elaborate on that, but from my understanding that they are committed that we go forward with this project and that we use a facilitator such as the COG And my hope is if we can do this, that the city will be involved with, just as if they were contributing towards it, involved with the whole process of hiring the project manager for the job and hiring for the architects. And again, I look at the COG as like a funnel. We have a whole group of interviews that they will be doing, that the COG will be doing under our direction and bringing it down to the top 2 or 3 candidates. And then the city and the county is going to, and the judges are going to make the final selection. But they're going to be the ones that's going to funnel all this interview process and their due diligence and bring it down to us, and we're still the ones making the project. So again, my hope is if we can go forward with this and with the bear the expense to get this thing to actual bid would be the county / judges, but we would want the city intimately involved with the process. And I agree with Commissioner Kirschner, we have to make sure that the contract is ironclad and it is reviewed by our prosecutor and that it is advantageous to city / county.
On Wednesday, we received a letter where they withdrew. I've not received anything back in writing, obviously others have. So they are interested in being back part of this project.
Yes, that is correct.
I mean, this letter withdrew them, and like I said, I was working on my stuff anyway and continued working on it. I guess I raised a question. Dr. Lasky made remarks at that meeting about not interested in, so has he changed his mind on that as well, that he would interview if we agreed with him to do a request for qualifications? Because that night he made the statement he would not do that, and then like I said, we got this letter the following week. Because I think that's of utmost importance, because and the mayor's out of the room at the moment, but city administrator's here, and some council members. But what I read accurately in the paper was that the city had a vote of no confidence in the COG serving as in that position as a project manager at the regular council meeting last Monday. Mayor, I was just solidifying that this council had a vote of no confidence in the COG serving as project manager at the meeting last Monday.
Yes, that's correct.
So I was raising the question, if he stated he didn't want to interview if we did a request for qualifications at that meeting of the whole, whichever meeting I was at in your chambers, we've received this letter that he wanted to withdraw after, which was after that. So are they willing to submit information if we put out a request for qualifications?
To begin with, I think we need to clarify, the COG is not the project managers. They are not. They are the project facilitators. They are going to bring all the groups together. They are going to go through the interview process for the project managers. We, city / county, will make the final decision on the project manager. It is not the COG. It is not them.
Okay.
They
would just be a facilitator or liaison administrator or something of that role.
Yes, that is correct. That is, and they do have an interest to go forward. Quite frankly, they are frustrated, as I am too, because I see that how much this is costing the taxpayers by our continued delaying of the project, and they are frustrated too. And I believe to keep this project moving, the $125,000 that they will is really their fees for the project. Again, we will reap that benefit over and over and over to keep this thing moving. I forget what they told me today. It's a 4.4, so it's basically divided in a quarter, so it's costing us 1.25% every quarter that we delay this project onto the cost of the project. So what is we got accountants in the room, 1.1 of $10 million is what? 1% is
$110,000.
$110,000 a quarter. A quarter is what we are spending. $110,000 a quarter for every 3 months that we delay this project. The COG, if they can hurry, if they can keep this thing moving and get us just 3 months ahead of time, ahead of schedule, then we've already paid. They've already earned their keep.
Of course, I don't have a new contract to see. I've got an outline of some things suggested of what that would be. I don't know that that's a contract, but I just simply advocate for the fact that I think the services that they would be providing, since they're not the owner's representative, so I guess they wouldn't have to do a request, fulfill the request for qualifications portion of that. I think that between us and the city, we can do. That's my opinion and my opinion only. I realize that. But I think we can handle those things, so.
Deb, I hate to keep bringing up the same question, but with project facilitator and liaison, what exactly would they be doing? Is that the RFQ process? They're gonna choose and then we're gonna decide between who they choose, who we decide upon? I'm so confused on that.
They are gonna bring in numerous project managers, and they're gonna interview them. Let's say a half a dozen of them. And they're gonna break that down into what they feel is the top two. Now, we can be involved in that interview process, the top 2 or 3. Now, we, as the county city, will make that final selection as to which one we go. Okay, they're gonna do the same thing for the architect, same thing for the designer. They've already started the process where they've interviewed multi people with the resources that they have throughout the state. What are we gonna do if we have to do it? We're gonna call up a couple architects, a couple designers, a couple this. And with our limited knowledge of it, they've got the knowledge because of their connections throughout the state.
What are the connections throughout the state? What are the resources in building, construction, management, design? I mean, they're phenomenal in school, education services, that's what they do, and then the COG has developed out of that. Judge Shuff.
I'm speaking only for myself. I have been in county government and city government for 32 of my last 42 years. This project cannot go ahead in an effective, efficient manner without a coordinator leading it. It's like a parade without a start. It's like a head of a band or a band without the head. There has to be a project coordinator, in my firm opinion. In my firm opinion, it should be the COG, and here's why. They haven't been involved in this project for the last 2 years. They've taken an active participation and not charged a fee. Without them, we wouldn't be where we're at. Guaranteed. Number 4, it would keep the money locally. Number 5, they seem to have a passion for this project, and they are local. This project needs coordination. It is a unique project that has got judges, city, and county. I have added up all the officials, public officials involved in this project. And you would have to add the sheriff and the clerk of courts who are involved in this. And there are 17 public officials, all of which have a firm opinion on how this should proceed. We need coordination. We need someone in charge. And I'm recommending, personally, the COG to proceed with this. $125,000 in fees for them is minimal if they can get this project up and running. We have sat for 2 months going around in circles, so to speak. We have already talked about the construction manager at risk in March and April, and that is the best project delivery method, without question, for this project. We've talked about that and discussed it. We have talked about an owner's rep, and that is a good idea. And we talked about an architect, but in addition to those, and what will save us money in the long run, is a project coordinator. So I'd recommend that we proceed with a project coordinator.
I just have one quick comment, and I love Judge Shelf. He wanted to throw me out of the meeting earlier, so, you know.
No.
I know how good a guy he is. But I have to respectfully disagree with you. And the only reason that I respectfully disagree with you is because of this right here, which was in my mind to begin with. The residents of this county elected you 3 to run this county. The people of the city of Tiffin run the city of Tiffin because they were elected. The judges are elected. And we have an auditor, we have an engineer, we have a county prosecutor. We have officials that can make decisions based on their knowledge. You've been involved in business, Fred's been involved in business, Holly's been involved with organization of transportation and several other items. But, and I'm not trying to give anybody's resume here, but what I want to say is, if you guys take step one on Holly's plan, it says organization of a team. I would think the 4 judges could come together and say, you make the decisions for us. The commissioners come together and say, you guys make the decisions for us, and use the team that you have in place to bring the information then to the county commissioners. And that's your funnel, Fred. They bring that information in there. If you need information on how to get a building built, I gotta believe that there's a lot of municipalities around and a lot of counties around that have built buildings and know the pitfalls and know the engineers and know the architects. It wouldn't take too many phone calls for me to find out who's pretty good in Ohio. So I think that's the stuff that you have to do because that's what you get paid to do. That's what you were elected to do.
Well, let me comment. The fact is that we have already in place a leadership team. The fact of the matter is that we've met for about a year now. All the things that you said need to be done have been done in the past, up to this point. Now, the problem has been, Dave, that we haven't come along at the same pace. The problem is that February 17th, in these chambers, we approved the Joint Justice Center. It is now what, June, whatever today is. 4 months later, basically, and we're about at the same place we were when we approved this project then. The fact of the matter is, if you're talking about, there has not been a Joint Justice Center done in the state of Ohio. And part of this discussion is the reason why. Because there hasn't been a central point or central person to bring this thing along. Don't do an RFQ on the politicians of this project. We're not qualified to do it. You mentioned the business routine, and you're right. But if you're doing a business situation and you've got a merger that's going to happen, something that hasn't happened before, you always get somebody to facilitate that. No matter how smart the people think they are that are putting it together, there has to be somebody in the middle that's going to lead the way. And this is a project that just hasn't been done before. I am not qualified to bring everybody along at the same pace. But that's what we have to do somehow, get everybody at the same level of commitment and move forward. We haven't been able to do that yet, and we're not going to be able to do it on our own because as soon as we approve something, then we've got to wait for City Council. As soon as City Council approves something, they got to wait on us. And all it does is delay the process. Fred mentioned numbers regarding construction cost delays. I talked about numbers when I talked about interest rates. I'm telling you, for every minute we don't get this thing going, it costs the taxpayers money. And part of being intelligent is knowing when to say uncle, knowing when to say we are not in our wheelhouse as far as being an expert in moving a project along.
What part of the process got lost then from the time you put your deal together till today?
Well, because Judge Shuff mentioned it 2 months ago at least, the leadership committee agreed that the construction manager at risk would be the best delivery method. Council didn't come to that conclusion until last Thursday.
That they're on board with COG now?
No.
Construction manager at risk. That's a delivery
system.
In other words, you need a project manager.
Coordinator.
Yeah, project man, call it what you will, but.
And they disagree with your selection?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No. The leadership team.
Yes.
That was put together.
Okay.
Concluded 2 months ago that the best delivery system for this project is using a construction manager at risk. 2 months ago.
I think that's not the COG. That is a
the
group
leadership
that the
team
COG would be interviewing these construction managers at risk. Numerous companies that do that. Boil it down to a couple. We make the final decision.
The leadership team, what we have are the judges, we have the mayor,
one of the commissioners. We've been meeting almost twice monthly for a year.
So why isn't this committee bringing everything together?
Because information is being disseminated to the individual groups at different rates.
And that's,
Okay, I mean,
But aren't you facilitating? I mean, aren't you guys actually doing facilitation by bringing those 4 or 5 people together and saying, this is what we need to get done?
the idea is that a commissioner goes to that meeting, the commissioner comes back and tells the other commissioners what's happened so far. The idea was that the mayor and one of the city council members goes to that meeting, brings back to the city
So
council.
there's no
what's happened.
responsibility then?
Well, accountability, responsibility, whatever you want to call it. The fact of the matter is that we did not come along at the same pace. I mean, that's where it's at.
Well, and I understand the disagreement. I mean, I know certain people have certain ideas and certain disagreement. But I would think if the commissioners and the city and the judges would say, here's the person that's going to represent us, and whatever your team comes up with as a decision, we're going to live with that because that's who we appointed.
Well, that's why.
And that's all you're doing with Kai, is you're just appointing someone to bring all that information together and bring it back to you and say, here's what we recommend.
and that's what I was saying with this chart, is that the leadership team, it would be headed by an individual for each of those 3 groups and they could rotate if necessary to serve as the chairs, set the agendas, call the meetings, meet every couple of weeks once we get this thing moving, but it's an open and transparent meeting that everybody can come to. They do one commissioner, so it's not a public meeting. I think it ought to be a public meeting. I think we ought to all be there, and we let the chairs lead this thing. You have a respected time frame you work with, and then you move through. The decisions on actions would have to go back to council, would have to come back to this session, a session like this, in order to be voted upon when those actions. But I think you're right. I think the confidence would come with unified start to the project, and that's what's outlined on the org chart that I have. Mr. Zimmerman.
I don't know if I'm
Patiently waiting.
allowed to, but what experience has COG had to take on a tremendous responsibility of this? And who will be chairman of this? Is Dr. Lalowski? Is he going to be the person in charge, or is somebody else? But what is their past experience with handling a $10 and $12 million project, and how many of them have they handled in the past? Because if they have no experience and they haven't handled any in the past, then I question using them.
We have had.
Yes, you may.
We have had numerous meetings with the Council of Governors, Mr. Zimmerman, in which they brought, there's no saying that says you don't need to know everything, you just need to know where to get it, the information. And the fact is that we have had numerous conversations within the leadership team with those people who have done projects of this size and much larger. We have had numerous conversations with council that they put in that have done projects of this size and much larger. So all the folks that they have a network with have been at those meetings. Their job is not to have a knowledge as to how to build the building. Their job is to know how to coordinate the parties that are involved in getting the job done.
And
Yes, Mr.
I would like to follow up. So they were not willing in the city council meeting to apply for a project manager, and if they had to apply for that position, they would refuse to participate. So, and they have sent a letter that they don't want to participate. I don't understand how you as commissioners can even consider them at this time unless they have sent you a letter saying that they have reconsidered and now they want this particular position. Because so far I haven't seen such a letter, I haven't seen such a request. That's all that Holly has, is a letter saying they do not want to participate. If you vote today, I think you're making a terrible mistake. At least we ought to have a letter from them saying you ought to have a letter from them saying that they have changed their mind again, and now they want to participate. But you voting, when they have already said they don't want to participate, I don't understand how you can legally do that.
And I think you can legally do that, and I disagree totally with my friend, Mr. Zimmerman. I think you can because they have indicated verbally, and that's good enough, that they are interested in being a project coordinator. And I think, and using Mr. Zimmerman's word, you're making a terrible mistake if you don't move forward with this project. You're wasting time and taxpayers' money.
At our meeting last Thursday, I believe, Holly, you were there with the Squire Patton Law Group. They kind of outlined the way we should go about doing the construction manager at risk. They suggested that the normal procedure to do a construction manager at risk, the architect and the owner's representative, that you go out for RFQs. The city and the county go out for RFQs for those positions. Now, if we need to have a facilitator to help us do that, they should not be doing the interviewing. They shouldn't be calling somebody. That's an official document that you put out there, advertisement, to get the architect, the construction manager at risk, and the owner's representative, if we decide to have an owner's representative. So, and I believe we would want to know that input and to make those decisions of who we want in those instances. We don't want the COG calling and interviewing people just at their leisure of who they think they might be. I mean, we really want to go through the official process the way we need to do it. The other thing was the owner's representative should be paid, they felt, on a fee basis, not on a, okay, here's the lump sum, you do the work, here's your lump sum for doing it. Now, I understand you're saying you're not going to use the COG or NCOASC as the owner's representative, but as just a facilitator. Why not do that on a fee basis? They provide us the service of organization, which it sounds like that's what we want, somebody who's going to organize some of this. But I think the city would still like to be the one to make the decision of who's going to be the owner representative or who's going to be the construction manager at risk, the architect. By looking at the RFQs that come in, we probably don't want the COG to do that for us. And that's how I see it, but I don't know if that's how everyone else does.
The leadership team would be the group that makes the final decisions about anybody that's involved with this, including the owner's representative. The only thing the COG would do would be to solicit those people that they know are, from a best practice standpoint, are the best in their field, and ask them to submit RFQs. I mean, I'm not sure why the look. I'm stating facts here.
Well, I guess the leadership team would be making the decisions as far as
The leadership team would absolutely
the
make
architect
all
would
the
be, the
decisions.
construction manager at risk.
Absolutely. And again, I'm not sure why the look and the look of doubt, you know.
And you're talking about the leadership team defined in that, in the work
Yeah.
chart from the COG?
Yeah, well, or a leadership team that we agree to. I don't think anybody, I don't think this is written in stone, but I'm not certain why we get disgruntled looks when we make a question.
Yes, Deb?
One of the questions I would add, or say to follow up on that a little bit, is not with the look, but the leadership group. And I saw that for the first time recently. I saw my name on a committee I wasn't aware about, was told I should have been, but I was not, but that doesn't matter. The point is, when I look at the leadership group, I would think when we do the RFQs, it's usually the mayor, myself, and the engineer. You know, we take it very serious role, and we're separated. You know, we kind of do it independently. So would you have on that leadership group being, I've only seen it for the first time last week, I don't have it memorized, would you have maybe committed to an engineer to be on there? I would think they would want to be or need to be, just for their familiarity with firms, because we do kind of feed off when we're done, and they'll say, oh yeah, I've got experience with them. You know, I count on their leadership in our positions, because we don't deal with them as much as they do.
Yeah, it's very possible to put whoever we thought was
They would be
necessary on the
important
leadership
role, I
team,
think.
to do that. But the fact is that we have two different engineers. We've got different attorneys, different representatives, so it's difficult for that. What we tried to do was put on, the city of Tiffin had a council member and the mayor on that group, and we had one commissioner, which was disproportionately represented by the percentages that we have. We didn't care about that, but we wanted to make sure that there was enough representation to be able to understand the information that was being disseminated and get it back to their individual groups.
And in response to that, Deb, the time we would be looking at RFQs for architects and for the CMR, if, I'm guessing that's the way that, I respect what the judges said and what I've heard, and that we would go that route. You would have, if we follow the advice of the professionals last Thursday night, we would have an owner's representative on board at that point in time, and that owner's rep would bring that expertise to the table.
Good.
Yeah, for all of us. I mean, they're an owner's rep for all three groups that, you know, we would decide upon and get in place to help with that. Now, according to the chart I put together, I put that we would put the RFQ out there before the owner's rep would be in place, but not the review of them. That's just when it goes out because of the 30-day requirement.
Sure.
Got to collect those, have time to,
Right.
whatever you put, you're going to shortlist it to whatever number. You've got to have that time to do that after the conclusion of 30 days, and then you've got to get together to make that short list and then move it from there. So our owner's rep would be in place before we were screening those types of documents. And that would be that expertise for all of us
Yeah,
in that method.
Just to make certain, the Joint Justice Center leadership team was never put together to exclude anyone. It was try to make it as inclusive as possible. If there are any other individuals who, you know, feel that they need to be on there because of their expertise, certainly that would be considered. So I just want to make it clear that that team was put together based on discussions with all the entities that were involved in the project.
Then that would lend us that if we went with something similar to what I was looking at for a leadership team, which was allowing all to be set, we set up a schedule that we are going to meet on a set schedule every 2 weeks or whatever it might be. This is, now, I know you don't have copies, but of the org chart I put together as a draft. Then we would be doing that. And then we also will have those meetings recorded. Others could come and go. We each respectively put someone to be, you know, serve as a three-headed chairman, I guess. But to set that group would set the agenda, walk through those stuff. There'd be opportunity, but a set time frame, so we don't let things drag on, and we move forward in sync, in step, together, unified. Because if we can't step off of block one together, I don't know why we're going to do this at all. Because we're trying to establish something that will work for all entities for decades with the construction of this facility. So we need to be together from the very start. And I think we have the opportunity to make that start now. There was no ill will in that flow chart, organizational chart that the COG put together. They've been helpful for several years in doing things. But we have come to a point that, you know, maybe we've got some disagreements and so forth, and I think it stems from a contract that we were given. That there was a lot of dislikes with the contract that we had. So at this point in time, I'm guessing that contract's off the table, and there's going to be a new contract of some sort come forward if there's that interest of them being a coordinator or whatever it might be. But right now, without that contract, if we want to keep things moving, we can decide that we like this method, and we can wait for the city's reaction to that. But I don't know where else we are.
Well, on our own, we have not been able to come up even with an operating agreement. Forget, now the thing is built. We still don't even have, because we've tried to do it on our own, to establish an operating agreement. And we're not anywhere near an agreement between the city and the county as to how this thing is gonna be handled. We have some thoughts on it, but we haven't.
And I've got down here that we would have.
We haven't put, I mean, so those are things that we've been able to do on our own. We've been charged to do it, but we haven't even done it. And just.
I want to clear up one thing, Mr. Rollins' comments. That we did not receive a letter saying that the COG wanted to get back in, but I do know for a fact that there had been encouragement to Mr. Wachowski to come back at some level, and there had been suggestions from the city and from the county that if they came in at a certain level, that we would be more acceptable to a different contract. So it wasn't that he withdrew and then said, you know, I want back in, it was that people went to the COG and said, and suggested outside meetings that if things were different, we would have an interest. So I want to make that very clear.
Are there any further comments on this, or do we want to suggest that direction we want to go? So, does the city meet on Monday, Mayor?
Yes.
Monday's the 15th.
I believe we're to the point we need to make a vote. Take a vote to move forward. As I keep looking at this, 1.25% every quarter that we're costing the job, that we're adding to the cost of the job. And as Mr. Kirschner outlined, that what the COG is going to get in this whole thing is $125,000. That's it. That's what they're going to get. And we're blowing that every couple months.
So we don't have a contract from them. I see a memo, to whom it may concern, from Jim Lahosky dated today. But is that a contract? I mean, I don't know if that's a contract. Of course, if it is, our legal counsel has seen it because he's on vacation.
No, it's not.
That's not a contract, that's just suggestions of ideas, I guess, that he put together after being asked apparently by someone to come back in. So what are,
I believe we should vote to enter into a contract that we have to work out with the COG, some specific. That's an outline of it, but I think we need to have a review with our legal counsel.
Right, yeah, I would want legal counsel to review the contract and then to bring it here for approval.
So therefore, we really don't want to bring this up to a vote today until we get legal opinion on it, and our prosecutor's on vacation for.
Excuse me, Commissioners, I am here as a representative from the prosecutor's office, but yeah, I'm clearly not the civil attorney, so if you have something that you need our office to review, I can keep that with me, and Rhonda will review that since Derek's off on vacation.
thank you, Stephanie. Are we done with this
We got
topic?
somebody in the back that might want to speak.
Mr.
Would
Stacy?
you guys actually vote on something without having a price? Is that something you do? I just couldn't imagine doing that.
Without having a what, I'm sorry?
Without having a price, voting on, all right, let's use the COG and we don't know what they're gonna charge us. That just sounds.
No, we do have a price.
Well, they're throwing out the price of $125,000.
By the time it's.
But you're
all-
right, I'm guessing it doesn't make sense to go.
Now, you got that right? You got something that says that?
Got a memo.
'Cause I know what stuff that's said is worth about nothing. Says
Well, there's also-
125,000.
Well, that's why you have a contract. You start on a contract.
I agree.
Yeah.
And we know sometimes contracts aren't good either.
I have a few lawsuits on breaching contracts. But
it's really.
If they don't take a vote, then they can't proceed with a contract negotiations because there's nothing to negotiate over and talk about and discuss and prepare.
So legally, we need to enter into an agreement that gives us the authority to work out a contract with COG. Is that how the legal process works here?
It could, or we could wait until we had a contract, and then we could go in discussion with our legal counsel in executive session if we wanted to over a contract with that representation, and come out of executive session and make decisions on
Again,
things.
we have the outline of a contract here. We certainly need legal opinion to review it. I guess
Why is
where we
why
go
is
from
a
here?
contract going to be prepared if you don't show some direction of where you're going? If you want to use the COG as a project coordinator, then you should say so a contract can be drawn up. If you do nothing, then why is a contract being drawn up? Are you waiting until the contract? Yes, you're going to wait till the contract, but why not have some direction now as to where you're going? What has happened is, lately, there's no direction in my opinion, and we need some direction.
I would make a motion that we would enter into a contract with the COG that can be reviewed by our prosecutor and see if we can move forward with this project. And again, my strong hope is that the city is willing to participate in this, not financially, because financially, between the judges and the commissioners, we would take this thing through design and bid. But we would want full participation from the city and their input in this process.
But your motion, Commissioner Zoller, is simply to use the COG as a project
Facilitator.
coordinator, facilitator.
Yes.
Whatever the key word is for this project. I don't think the rest of that enters the motion regarding the city and the money and that.
Yeah, no, that, the motion is strictly that we use the COG, that we can enter into we can negotiate a contract with a COG that is desirable to the city/judges. Because those are the people who are gonna pay for it.
That's acceptable to the city? So, I'm not clear on the motion. Read the motion. Tell me what-
I would make a motion that we would enter into a contract with the NC, yeah, whatever, the COG, that they would be the project facilitators of this, and that their fees would be paid through a joint county/judges participation.
We can't move that we're gonna enter into a contract if we haven't seen the contract. That we would.
But as Judge
Enter into negotiations.
Enter in, yeah.
Not enter into a contract. Enter in negotiations for a contract.
But we are stating on record that if that is the desire of this commission, that we want to enter into a negotiation with COG.
For the purpose of them being project manager
Project facilitators.
and project coordinator.
Coordinators. Not project managers, not project managers.
Project coordinator, okay, I will second that motion.
We have a motion and we have a second on the floor to enter into negotiations with the COG for a contract for project facilitator responsibilities. Would that be an accurate reflection of the motion?
Yes.
Nothing regarding the city's approval or anything along that lines? Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
For discussion on the motion and the second on the floor, there was reference to that being paid, and I keep getting confused on how that gets stated, being paid by the judges and the county. Therefore, if that's the case, it's not using the $500,000 0 interest % loan that can be used for project management type services, because that has got many partners on that loan, including the city. And that is not our money, that's the project money if this is a joint justice center. So that would have to be other monies. I'm just, point of clarification, correct?
But yeah, but it can be used for all the costs, I mean, such things as the architect, et cetera, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any further comments or discussion from, this is from the board at this point, because we have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll just, one further comment, that I would hope that the outcome of this vote doesn't jeopardize the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we have had and have worked a very long time on to have come to fruition for the benefit of the citizens of Seneca County. Call the roll.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
No. Motion passes. Continue our meeting, going back to the agenda. I don't think we had any other items under old business. New business, we've covered all the listed items at the top. We can begin with the bill vouchers.
I had the health department, a letter from the health department and the elections. And I've been waiting patiently.
Oh, sorry, Board of Elections, sorry. Did Jim leave?
Yes, he did.
Somebody did run the office, right?
We have a competent staff.
Let's take care of Board of Elections.
Yes, I forwarded you an email that I got from Jim, basically requesting the additional money. We have to pass a resolution, or at least a letter, prior to October 1st for the increase in the precinct workers. We didn't get it approved prior to October 1st last year, so they could not do that. They're requesting that we do that letter this year, still a little early, but you know, it's better to be early than not. And I sent you the email regarding this, so that's what.
Was there some additional training money there too? Did I misread that?
Additional?
There's no additional training money.
Okay, for the
as-
poll workers?
But poll worker pay to bring us in line with the minimum wage for the state of Ohio.
And
And with an increase, we really agreed to, but again, the money just wasn't in place in time to allow you to use it that way.
That's correct.
You had mentioned in the letter, I think, that the Help America Vote ADA Act, is that the right acronym? Act, that grant wasn't received. Is that because we didn't apply? Did they cut back on giving those grants? What
No,
happened?
That's correct. That grant is over. There's no more money from that particular grant.
So that's not a pot to apply for anymore?
That's correct.
I have no problem when we have to make sure we have our elections. We wanted to make sure these poll workers got a little bit of an increase. It was a recommendation. Let's make sure my opinion is we make sure we have the communications in place to allow them to do that.
Yes.
Do we need anything formal?
I'll prepare the letter and we'll make sure it gets done.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
That was a long meeting to sit through for that.
I
We appreciate your
actually
patience.
took my personal time to come over to hear the meeting today. Thank you.
Well, it's county business, so I don't know. All right, the health department.
I have a request from the health district. They have the opportunity to sublease the dental office portion of the rental space that they have at the county services building. As per our lease agreement, they need our written consent to do so. According to the schematics of the building, this would be 500 square foot space. Such an arrangement would help the health district offset their cost of the lease to us.
But, I'm sorry, run it again. What do they want to do?
They want to lease.
Dennis did.
Yeah. They want
Dennis.
to sublease the dental office portion of their rental space at the county services building. And it would be them subleasing it out to the individual. She didn't put down here who was gonna be subleasing, but.
In space they're not, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we, I guess,
Health
do we need to
department.
ask the prosecutor's office, will give you more stuff to take back? Do we have to ask them if we're allowed to amend that lease to allow them to sublease? Because it's not in there now? Since they're asking us, I'm assuming it's not in there to allow them to sublease.
Correct.
I mean,
But we had to start with, if you guys
Yeah,
are okay with that.
I don't have a problem with it as long as it goes through the prosecutor's office.
well, there are such things too, as you gotta bring it back to the same condition it was when you started. I mean, I don't know what you gotta do to a 500 square foot space to make a dental office out of it. But I assume there's construction that would be involved. And I would assume that there are plumbing issues, et cetera. So, I mean, hopefully part of it is that at our desire, it would either be put back in the condition it was when they leased it, or,
Something
left the
acceptable
way
to
it
us.
was, yeah. I
Because
mean,
we may want to leave it as a dental office, so that don't mean they have to tear the plumbing out, but it either comes back to the position, to the condition when they took it over, or to our satisfaction. Yeah, it's a good idea.
let them review it, but, you know, I think there's a couple of questions you would have.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with it in theory, but.
I'll let Derek know and get his opinions on it.
Sure, come after all the heat's off. Yeah, that's fine. No,
I
I'm
was
just
zooming
kidding.
out for it.
I'm just giving you crap. Stephanie's got lots of notes, though.
I'll
So
get
they
with-
can
I'll get with Derek.
get with Derek on it. and We're good with that?
There's no problem there.
Okay. And then continue, I guess. That covers everything we listed?
Yep. Okay, I have bill vouchers, batch number 2119. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the Issue 1 Resurfacing Program Fund, putting $1,039,351.43 into the contract service line. I have a resolution authorizing the appropriation adjustment within the capital projects fund, moving $1,450,000 from our capital improvement projects fund to the new Justice Center fund. A resolution authorizing a fund transfer be made to the Joint Justice Center fund. Again, this is one of the other steps to get that money moved over from the capital projects fund, $1,450,000 to the Joint Justice Center fund. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations from the Joint Justice Center Fund, putting $2 million into contract services. That will be to appropriate when we get contracts in place. I have a resolution authorizing a fund transfer be made to the Public Assistance Fund. This is for the Job and Family Services, moving it out of the general fund for $64,592.50 to put into their contract, or county share portion. I have a resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the Seneca Regional Planning Fund, moving $2,000 from equipment to travel. A resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the Seneca County Sewer District, moving $3,000 from equipment to supplies. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriation for the Seneca County Septic Loan Fund, putting $5,314.14 into the loan payments line. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations from general fund, putting $6,430 into transfers out. Resolution authorizing a fund transfer be made to the capital projects fund, moving $6,430 from the general fund to the capital projects fund. I have a supplement to the permit appropriations for the capital projects fund, putting $6,430 into the museum line. A resolution authorizing entering into a contract with Palmer Conservation Consulting for the CSB and the museum, authorizing county administrator to sign on behalf of the board. A resolution approving the bonding company in the bond for Kathy Oliver, appointed as Executive Director of Children's Services, probate court term expiring June 23rd, 2019. She has 3 of these. Approving the bonding company and the bond for Kathy Oliver, appointed as the Seneca County Director of Job and Family Services, term expiring June 23rd, 2019. And also for her appointed as Executive Director of Children's Services, term expiring June 23rd, 2019. I have a resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding for the Seneca County Board, for Seneca County for the Responsible Fatherhood Program on behalf of Job and Family Services. That was for WSOS, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
The memorandum of understanding was for WSOS, for the Responsible Fatherhood Program. Resolution hiring Jessica Dukas as an intermittent receptionist from Seneca County Commissioners through the TANF Youth Employment Program, effective June 15th, 2015. This is a young lady that through Job and Family Services, we will get reimbursed for the TANF program. She's going to come in and help us do some filing. We usually bring in a summer help once a year. And that's all the resolutions. For that.
That's a pile. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the resolutions as stated. One question, I don't have a number here, but the one regarding an adjustment within Seneca Regional Planning Fund.
Right here.
I was looking for that document, paper-wise, okay. That's moving that in from something to travel, from equipment to travel. So is that because we've approved their budget? That
Yes.
we have to approve the move of the money?
Yes.
Does it require us to see their board approval of this kind of thing, or know it's in their budget to spend that on travel? I mean, I guess I just want to make sure we don't.
We have just that's the request of Regional Planning Director, assuming that she's got the authority from that board to request it.
So it's,
we've not.
that's hers to deal with if not,
Right.
not ours.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other way to look at it is that we need an authorization, written authorization from the board to make any transfers, if they are the fiscal agent for that.
And do we, or should we?
That's up to the board.
I mean-
This is the county's portion of that
Do
budget.
we move
that
money around,
approve.
for example, for the Board of Elections?
Yes.
But they're under our accountability totally. They're totally funded from us. The regional planning is not.
But they do have a separate board, though. I mean,
They do have a separate board, okay, you're right, you're right. It's not the funding stream, it's the board.
So, I mean, there's some similarity there.
Yeah.
But by resolution, if they wanted to move from equipment to supplies, this board would have to do it. We get the request from
Board of Elections for
Timmerman or-
that
yeah,
stuff.
yes, yeah, not necessarily
From the board.
From the board. We assume that they're getting direction from their board to be able to ask to move that funding.
Just as a check and balance, my only suggestion would be to send a copy of that to their board chair, so that they're aware that money's been moved and that, we're being transparent. I know this is a matter of public record, but they ought to at least be made aware of it.
Okay.
And he was here, but he's gone now, that's the mayor. All right, that was the only question I had. Any other questions on any of the resolutions as presented? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, all approved, thank you. Okay. That brings us to the opportunity for additional citizens' comments. I guess at this point in time, we're down to our regulars here and our wonderful representatives. Oh, we knew, we're going to have the executive session?
Yes.
And
we will have, we will have.
Well, let's do the citizens' comments, but we will need an executive session for employment of personnel, and there will be action after that executive session. So, does anybody else want to make comments, in case you need to get about your merry way for lunch? Delmer?
Hey, I will say something. Thanks for standing up to the city. I think the city is trying to bully the county commissioners and the rest of the citizens of Seneca County into doing exactly what they want to do and not what's good for the whole county. And I could make further comments, but I got to keep it clean.
Further
Other than that, basically speaking, what it amounts to is they have a small percentage of the financial part of this in it, and they want to run it as having their way and their way only, and that's not the way it should be. The rest of this, Bustoia, Attica, Republic, and all of New Rigo and Melmore and so forth, they should have a say in this too. And thank you guys for letting them have a say in it.
Any other citizens that would like to make comments at this time? Okay, I'll need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Seconded.
A motion and a second to go into executive session. Please call the roll. For the purposes of personnel is the only topic.
Yep, employment.
So thank you, prosecutor's office, but we won't need you.
Won't need us?
We won't need you. You may go.
You won't need us for anything else?
Gosh, we
Well,
hope
we
not.
will, but not
You know
today,
what?
or maybe not this moment.
Precinct you.
Don't leave the county.
Can you put a memo together explaining to Commissioner Zoller what the Board of Revisions is?
I could.
Okay, you don't have to, but, okay.
I might need that memo too.
He wants to do that because there's only 2 meetings. Call the roll, please. Sorry.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, it's 11:47. We will go to executive session.
I'm gonna do a pause.